name is Julia Muiruri. I'm a student learn ambassador from Dikut, currently in my third year doing IT. And I'm here on behalf of the Microsoft Imagine Cup community here in Kenya. And of late, we've had a lot of innovations from the country and from other countries as well. But one thing that is really consistent is the fact that you will just hear a group of students from this university did this, a group of students from another university, a group of individuals. So one thing that is very consistent is that these are people who came together, got an idea, worked on it, and the end product was an amazing innovation. So that is the purpose of today's call. We are going to talk about how to maximally be productive working as a team. And we have invited our special guest, who is Somet Kipchilat, who is a Senior Business Development Manager at Microsoft, and he's going to share on effective teamwork. So he's going to cover team formation, participative leadership, team efficiency, and the challenges and solutions that you might meet as you work in teams. And then after that, my co-host Consolata Gisheru is going to interview a team that won the Microsoft ADC Game of Learners program, Team Randy, who are with us on the call today. And lastly, we will conclude by a short demo on how to apply for the Imagine Cup competition. So I don't want to waste more time. I will directly introduce Somet. And before that, if you have any questions, please, I'm going to post a form. And in that form, you can type in your question, because I don't think the attendees have the ability to type in the questions, and we're going to ask them as we continue with the session. So yeah, we expect a lot of questions from you guys. So over to you, Somet.
Thank you, Julia, for that. Thank you for that introduction. I will try and cover a lot of the things that you mentioned, but I also try and do it a bit in a very interesting way, and just to give people a different perspective. But let me share my screen, and please do let me know once you can see it. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
All right, cool. So I guess I'll begin. So my name, let me start by quickly introducing myself. My name is Somet Kipchilat. I'm a Senior Business Development Manager, and I know that title is a bit of a mouthful. But what I do at Microsoft is I am responsible for Microsoft startup programs and engagements across East and Southern Africa. I've been with Microsoft, I think towards the end of this year, I'll probably hit 6 years now. And I started off actually, interestingly enough, as a Microsoft student partner, just like Joshua and Julia, and did that for a couple of years, I think about 2 years. And then the program was slightly a bit different. I think in my university, we were around 11 student partners. I think we were one of the largest group of student partners in one university at a time, which was interesting. I then transitioned into what we call our developer experience team, and got to engage a lot of developers, both from students to professional developers, to freelance developers. I did this for a couple of years and then joined an amazing team that I still am in today called For Africa. And we do some really, really interesting things. We're looking at, how do we invest in things on the continent that will make people successful in the future, that being connectivity, skills, and quite a number of interesting things. So I then tend to interact with quite a number of people. But I guess I'll deep dive today into our presentation, our conversation around effective teamwork. And Julia and Joshua, feel free to jump in, add, contribute. So early this year, and slides are not moving. Cool, but early this year, we got into this very interesting, I call it interesting predicament. COVID-19 hit, and then that really changed the way people did things. It really got us to start thinking first, how do we respond to this predicament? How do we respond to this pandemic? And we've done quite a lot of things as a country, but also across the world. Moving forward, we're, I think, in the phase of, recovering from that pandemic. And I think, we've done quite a lot to keep the numbers down. I think if you look at the numbers, I think in Africa, some of relatively the lowest in the region. So I think we're in that phase of recovering. And people have done some really interesting things. And the thing that it will tend to start doing is to get us to start reimagining how we do things, how we cooperate, how we work together, how we live. It has really affected everything that we do. And so as we do that, definitely one of the key things as you guys go build amazing solutions, innovations, there'll come the question of how do we work together? And definitely COVID has really changed that. You know, back in the day it was as easy as let's come together, let's sit in one space, let's do a hackathon, let's do things in person. And that human element is very important. But now we now have to, you know, sit in this environment where we're now working remotely. So I decided let me change the flow of the conversation today and sort of talk to you about a couple of things. So when we think about effective teamwork, I personally think it starts with leadership. I know a lot of people are in groups and you find yourself in leadership positions, or you're supposed to lead a team. But I think leadership, in my perspective, is a choice. You know, it's a choice that you as a leader decide. You know, I'm going to lead this team, and you know, it comes with a certain number of things. And the one thing I'll always tell people, there's a very big difference between leadership and authority. There's a very interesting, I was just having this conversation with my friend a couple of minutes ago. There's always this people, everyone always wants to be at the top. So if you look at the way society is set up, we're always trying to be leaders. You're always trying to be the person at the top. But most of the times we forget that it's a lot of the things that happen downstream and the people who you lead that really affect how you become a leader. And you can be, it doesn't require that you have some level of authority to be a leader. So I don't have to have a fancy title to be a leader. I don't have to be the lead of the CEO of a company to be a leader. You can be a leader at any one point, irrespective of where you are. I started off in my team as a junior person, just to give you guys a very interesting example. When I first joined Microsoft, I had people in my team, the team that I joined, who had 26 years work experience on top of me. But in my own form and shape, in the things that I did, I became some sort of a leader. Leading in terms of I was passionate about the stuff that I was doing and sort of started looking at can I both contribute to a team and how can I create an environment where people can thrive. And I think that's the core of a team. And especially as a leader, your job is to create the environment that allows people to thrive. And that's some of the things I wanted to talk about. Now, if you think about, let's take an example of a hunter-gatherer community, or let's take the military as an example. You know, the military, as you go into war-torn areas, you know, you will take shifts. And sometimes you will end up being put in a platoon of people that you actually do not like. But in some cases, you know, for the military, it's not about whether you like someone or not. It's how do you take your position in the military? And so some people you find during their shift will sleep knowing that at least the person who you've left in charge has created the right environment to allow us to thrive. You know, if you look and think about the different environments that you will come to collaborate in, so whether it's at work, at school projects, one of the key things is, you know, do you have the right environment to allow you to be as productive as humanly possible? And that means that even as you're a leader or you're a contributor to that team, you know, how do you look at the environment that you're in and be, I'll give an example. I think sometimes we forget, you know, we have to be considerate about the people that we are working with. You have to sort of play your role in that team. Now, as you build that very interesting environment, the other thing that you will slowly start to see is trust. And I'm talking from a perspective of the jobs that you guys join or are already working on. how do you create trust in the environment that you work in? I think the human response in terms of trust is, if I create an environment where you feel comfortable that you can thrive and you can be the best contributor, then definitely you feel trusted and you feel more inclined to contribute. But if I create an environment where there's no trust, then definitely the human response is criticism, cynicism, paranoia. And so you won't even feel that this is an environment where I can contribute. I'll give you a good example. If I have a boss who doesn't give me the environment, doesn't create a trust environment where I feel like contributing, what ends up happening is you find I start doing things bare minimum. They say in any company, there's the people at the bottom who are the workers are the ones with the information. The guys at the top leadership are the guys with authority. And most of the time you'll see it's the authority trying to push instructions downwards and the guys at the bottom trying to push information upwards. But in the modern way of thinking of how we work, we have to create an environment where, as a leader, my job is to create that environment and create that trust. I think the other things that people always forget is that we're all different. I think when you go ahead and work in a team, you will soon discover, and especially, and I think this is why if you go online and read all these self-help books around creating an effective teamwork, you'll find people talking about how do you create an environment that encourages people to contribute. And if you can create a diverse environment, I think if you look at even some of the cultures that we have in Microsoft is around diversity. How do you bring together people with vast diverse experiences and skills to contribute to a team? So I think the idea that we are all different as we work in a team is a good thing, and because we bring a lot to the table. And I think the combination of these three things is very key. Now, the other thing I'd just love to touch on is that if teamwork is about people, it's about the people that you work with together. A team is not, they say the word team does not have an I in it. And that's very cliche, but the idea is it's about the people that you work with. And being able to create that environment, that trust and the diversity, then definitely teamwork is about people. So what do I bring to the table? How do I interact with people? How do I contribute to the things that I do? How do I bring my best foot forward? So whether you're a leader, whether you're just a contributor, how do I bring my best foot forward? And I think if we go now into the really depths of it to try and figure out, what are the characteristics of effective teamwork, and we can go read all these books and you'll probably come across all these ideas. You have to have a clear direction in terms of what you're trying to achieve. You have to have open and honest communication in terms of how you people work together. For leaders, you definitely have to figure out, how do I create an environment where, you create an environment where people are allowed to make mistakes. I think one of the, and I'm always thankful for this. In my job at Microsoft, I had the opportunity to make mistakes. And my boss is the kind of person who'd be like, would let you make mistakes and really, really get lost and then bring you back and tell you, okay, cool. Now that you've realized where you're going, come back, let me show you the way. So I think, being in a team, you should sort of foster a culture that allows risk-taking and change. I know people are very hesitant to change sometimes, but that's one of the things that really makes a team come together. So if you're able to make mistakes, take risks, but also not just take risks and not learn from them, but figure out how do I learn from them. I think there's a gentleman who says the worst absolute thing you can do in a team is maybe lose a multi-million-dollar company a lot of money, but just not a lot of money for it to be noticed. But even if it is, it doesn't mean that the world will end and everyone will die. So I think being able to foster a culture of people making mistakes is a good thing because people learn from those mistakes. So, and think of it not just now, but as you go on and work either in companies or build your own companies, how do you create that environment for the people? I think the other thing that really helps a lot of teams work very well is clearly defined roles. And I'll add there, clearly defined roles and responsibilities. So how do you make it clear on, what somebody's role is in the team? So if, and I think sometimes it takes, you have to figure out where your strengths are and how does that play to the role that you have. So give an example, as a senior business development manager, managing startups, my job is very clear. My job is to find the most promising startup on the continent, and how do I how do I support that organization to be big? Now, how I do that can be defined, but there's a clear guideline in terms of what I am supposed to be doing, but also I have the freedom to and the environment to go ahead and make mistakes and sort of chart on my own path. And I think a combination of those things is very key. And definitely, in terms of roles, if you think about it this way, so there's always the leader and there's always people who the contributors to a team. And if you think about even the structure of any multinational on earth, they always give you a path in terms of what your role is. Do you want to be an individual contributor, or do you want to be a people manager? And those two have very different, they're very different perspectives on the things that you need to do. And even I think as you interview this, you will probably see this in some job advertisement. This is an individual contributor role, meaning that you're coming in as a person and the skills that you have to contribute to a team. But then a people manager is slightly different. So I think that clearly definition of roles is key. Now, the other part is accountability. Sometimes we work in teams and we sometimes will make mistakes, but how do we as a team take accountability for the things that we do, whether we make a mistake or not? I think being able to be accountable for the things that you do within a team. So whether it's my little contribution to a team or is what we do all of us as a team, I think that is very key. And another one is communication. I think communication is very key. And communication could be a number of things. It could be tools, it could be chats, it could be vocal. So how you communicate with the team, and I think I've repeated when I talk about one, honest and open communication, but also respecting the channels of communication. Now, this will differ based on where you are, but if you look at as an example, if you're working in a large company, they have very clearly defined ways of communicating. And I think the reason that happens, and part of being a teamwork is, and what ties back to accountability, is can you communicate through channels where you can be held accountable? I think one of the first lessons I learned in Microsoft is if you can have something on email, have it on email. For this reason, and I know I will be hated for this, but WhatsApp is not an official way of communicating. And so those are the differences. You might find this when you're working on a personal friendly project, WhatsApp works fine and WhatsApp groups work fine. But then if you now then go into a work setting and a work environment, then the channels of communication completely change. I'll give an example. I live on Microsoft Teams. I live on Microsoft Teams and emails, and that's a culture of our company. Is how do we create channels of communications that we can take accountability for? So for everything that I do and I put on email, I should be able to take responsibility and accountability for it, whether it goes south or whether it works on well. So that's what I'd say about communication. I think another good way of forming teams, and this sort of will cut across some of the things that you mentioned, Julia, when it comes to forming and bringing these teams together, you kind of have to figure out, what are the goals that you have as a team? What are you all trying to achieve? We could set up a team to say, we decide we're going hiking to Mount Longonot over the weekend, and that's a clear goal that we're all trying to achieve. And do we all sort of fit within that common goal. And I think that's what strengthens teams. Now, you could have team members coming in from different experiences, different diversities, but at least a common sort of goal and guideline is really key. And then definitely, I think I've mentioned a lot about diversity in opinions. I think one, as team members and also as leaders, I think one of the key things that we need to do is make sure that we are able to not only get in as many diverse opinions of what we're doing as possible. Someone on the call muted me. Guys, if please don't mute me. I am the speaker. Cool. Can you guys hear me? Where did you guys lose me? Where was I?
Just like 45 seconds behind.
I could say a lot in 45 seconds, but just to go back around diversity. I think I've mentioned a lot about diversity of opinions, and that's why we encourage as teams, if possible, you could have a very diverse team. I'll give you an example. There's a very interesting chocolate factory I visited once, and they had this very interesting culture where it didn't matter whether you were in marketing, whether you're on the factory floor, whether you are in sales. They made sure that everyone had the opportunity to come in and contribute to ideas of, okay, what flavor of chocolate do we want to create, or what kind of marketing do we want to do? So everybody had the opportunity not only to experience a different thing, because I think sometimes what we forget is that the little things that we do have an effect on everyone else. So we forget that everything that the marketing guys will do have a direct effect on sales. What the sales guys do will have a direct effect on what engineers will build. So that ability to have a diverse view of what's going on. So I'll give a good example. Just because you're a software engineer doesn't mean that you can't go sit with marketing and understand what do they do. I think one of the huge risks of building a huge company, and one of the challenges that I know Microsoft faced a while back, is that you could join Microsoft engineering in, say, in Redmond, 40,000 employees, and you can be there for 10 years and you will probably never meet a salesperson. It's very possible. So you kind of have to be intentional about bringing together diverse people from diverse, not only places, but ideas, diverse opinions, diverse things. So I think diversity is a very big thing. Now, I know some people think, okay, but if you hear this saying of too many cooks spoil the broth, and I guess that's why we have leaders. But I think diversity in opinions and us being the ability to not only listen to these opinions, but also respect these opinions, because sometimes you never know. That guy that you think can't contribute to your team might be the guy who gives you your next best idea. So definitely diversity in opinions. Just give me 1 second. Cool. Now, let me jump into an example. And here's where I'd love people to unmute their mics now that somebody decided to mute me. Who can tell me who those are? Feel free to unmute yourself, since we can't type. Anyone? We're a team now, contribution. And I don't want to be the person saying it all. This is where we put effective teamwork into practice. Anyone can tell me who those two people are? Take a wild guess. Or should I start volunteering people?
Ford.
Sorry? Sorry, I didn't hear that. Could you repeat that again? Was that Harrison Ford I heard? Joshua, I'm going to volunteer you.
I practically have no idea.
Julia?
I'm not even able to guess.
Tony Mwema.
I'm not able to guess too.
I see someone called Cinderella. That's quite an interesting name. Any guess?
Looks like Tom Ford. the people who were involved in creating vehicles, the first vehicles.
Okay. All right, let me give you guys a hint. If my slides decide to behave. Does that help? Anyone? Anyone recognize anything in that picture that looks interesting?
Someone on the chat says Charlie Chaplin.
Charlie Chaplin. No, that's not Charlie Chaplin. Anyone else? There's someone here in the room with me. Yes, it's the Wright brothers. So these are the guys who are, I think, responsible for building the first airplane. Now, the reason I put them on the screen is because and I was reading up a bit on them, and I discovered they have some very, very interesting ways of working as a team. Now, what most people don't know in history is that these two brothers had when they started building the bicycles, they started, sorry, not bicycles, they started actually by building bicycles way before they ever built an airplane. And so they used to work in a bicycle shop. Now, these are guys who are raised together, same opinions, same experiences. And so at some point, they had to figure out, how do we become as effective as possible as a team? And one of the things they used to do that I think for me was quite interesting was they would each every day take opposite sides of, let's say they were trying to think about what's the best engine to put on this plane. They would each take two opposite sides of an argument around engines, and they would go ham on each other for the whole morning. And they would do this as a practice every single day. And this was their sort of way of, fine, we've been raised together, we have similar thought processes, not the same, but similar. But this is sort of our way, since we don't have another person. This is our way of bringing diversity. And so they would take two different sides of an argument, and they would argue. And then what they would do so that it doesn't get overboard, at lunchtime, they would stop, eat lunch together, have a chat, and then in the afternoon, they would switch sides. So this was their way of constantly challenging themselves and challenging their opinions and thoughts of each other. It got to a point where how they would decide who would fly the plane, the first would be to look at, they would argue on petty things like, this person eats more lunch than the other, and so he seems a bit more fat than the other. But they would constantly challenge each other as a team, just the two of them, as they built it. And they really went at great lengths before they were able to ever fly. I mean, back in the day, people had no clue what airplanes were, but these guys really, really pushed the boundary. And so I just thought I'd give that as a very interesting example of some very interesting practices of teamwork. Now, let me jump into the future of teamwork, because I know that's where sort of people are now interested. Oh, okay, there's all these technology, there's all these things, people asking all these questions, there's all these different perspectives. And right now your work environment is not similar to what I have on slide, because now everybody's working remotely. But people will ask themselves any questions, but this is the thing that you're now faced with. You're faced with the situation of, you have all these technology around you, all these sensors, all these smartwatches, cameras, Fitbits, laptops, phones. You have all these things and technologies around you, and it can get really, really, really overwhelming. And that's where technology is going to now. If you look at, these are just some of the things I'd love to highlight around where work is going to. These are just my thoughts, and not necessarily where, you see, here's the funny thing about being a futurist. I can predict with conviction where the future of teamwork will be in the next 5 years. And 5 years down the line, none of you will even ever remember what I said. So I'm not trying to say this is what it will be, but I think definitely we used to say that the future of teamwork will be remote, and that's where we are today. Now we have to sit remotely. I'm actually doing this call in my living room. Typically, I would have gone into a studio somewhere and do this recording, or would be probably in person at a hotel somewhere. People used to think trainings are you go sit at a hotel with a notepad, listen to the guy at the front, speak for hours on end, and that would be teamwork. No, but the idea of teamwork is remote, and that idea of it's remote poses one, I think, challenges, but also opportunities. Opportunities, one, for people to really think about how can they enable people work more remotely. I'll give you a very good example. So Microsoft, for the longest time, we've had the ability to be able to work from anywhere. Now, I think Joshua and Julia, and probably some guys on the call have met me before. There was a time I used to be on a plane I used to travel way too much. Josh can bear witness on that. But the reason I could still travel a lot and still be able to do work is because, going back to my first slide, Microsoft created for me the environment that allowed me to work, the technology infrastructure that allowed me to work from literally anywhere in the world. And so I wasn't tied to a physical desk because my work number, say, is going to a phone on my desk. No, I wasn't tied to my desk, to my office, because my HR requires that I check into the office every morning and do a fingerprint scan. That's changed. COVID has really completely disrupted that. But what Microsoft did is it created the culture, the processes, the tools that enable me to work remotely. And so for us, as COVID happened, it wasn't a huge change to enable us work remotely. In fact, for us now, the biggest problem is how do we make sure people are more healthy as they work from home? We're not worried about the tools that they use, or we have to set up servers and all. Of course, we have to set up servers to support everyone else, but that's where work is that I will be able to do my work from anywhere in the world. Work will also become more personal. Now, I know it sounds strange when I say personal, but over time, what you'll start seeing is, because we have changed the environment that we work in, and now we have to work from home, how we work becomes very personal, because there's no longer a physical boundary between our work hours and our life balance. So they used to call it the work-life balance. I call it the work-life integration. You have to figure out how those two integrate, because honestly, I'll tell you this, as a human being, there's no way we can say we'll go and work will not affect our personal lives. It will. And so if we're able to figure out how to make work more personal, I'll give you a good example. In my day-to-day job, my boss sits in Egypt. In fact, for the last probably 4 years, I've never had a manager in the same country. And so I had the responsibility to now figure out, how do I do work? When do I work? How do I do it? Where do I do it? And so work will become more personal. You now have the responsibility and accountability to decide, hey, I will work only at night, or I will work certain hours. I find myself doing that. There are days I don't feel like working, but I know I have to. So work will become more personal. You will now have, as environments and cultures of work change, it will become more personal. It will now become a responsibility to you as a person to decide how you work. I'll give you a good example. In the US Marine, there is a captain who was trained to man a submarine. And I think that's a very, really good example of teamwork. You see the difference when you're in a submarine, it's either you all live or you all die. If somebody messes up, you all die. It's not about one person will survive, one will not. You either all live or you all die. So this captain had done all his training and did all whatever, he knew everything there is to know about the submarine. And a week before he changed that, he was called and told, oh no, you will not be the captain of this submarine, you'll be the captain of the other. And so all of a sudden, he's now faced with the challenge that he's going to be a captain of a ship he has very little, minimum understanding of. And he didn't want people to know. So of course, showed up at work, they're in the submarine, and they were running these tests where they're trying to figure out, okay, let's see how the team operates. And so he decided to start this challenge, and you get, there's a way, what they do in submarines, you get the submarine to to run at twice its speed, but run on battery power. And because if for some of you who studied submarines, I think the old technology used to use nuclear technology. But as he did this and he made the command to his second in command, and of course, second in command will tell the guy who's supposed to, execute the command. So he made, I can't remember what the command was. And his second in command blurted out the same instruction to the guys executing. And for a minute there, nothing happened. And so he asked the guys, okay, what's going on? What's wrong? And he was told, oh, sorry, this new submarine doesn't have that feature. We can't run it at twice its speed. It's not on this. And so he asked his second in command, did you know this? And the guy said, yes, but why did you give the same command? He's like, because you told me to. And right then there, he realized that he had a team that is based on discipline and compliance and not self-thinking. And so he abolished the idea of permission to do this, permission to do that, and turned it into I intend to. Now, the reason you do that is quite interesting. So effectively, what that ended up happening is he shifted the responsibility of everything that happens in a submarine from him as a captain to each and every individual person on the ship. So if my job is to make sure the missiles are prepped and ready to work, when I need to do it, I intend to do this. So that responsibility now shifts to me. So I don't have the leeway to decide, oh, okay, if I do it, if I don't do it, it's fine. The captain will take the fall. No, it is, I am now responsible for all the decisions that I make. And so if I don't do the thing that I need to do, then people will die. And so that's what I mean when I say teamwork will become personal. Now, so I don't spend too much time on that. And please, Julia, how much time do I still have? And Joshua?
I think you can just continue until around 5.
Oh, wait, I have that much time. Okay, cool. The third point is the future of work will be real time, meaning, and you've probably noticed this, since there's no boundary of personal time and work time, people naturally assume that you're available throughout. Morning, evening. I'll be honest, I have had to do calls at 2 a.m. People don't realize that I actually have a thing called my bed that I need to go sleep in. But the idea of the future of work, it will be real time. If you think about today, even how you communicate with your friends, it's WhatsApp. I write a chat and I expect the other person on the other end of that chat to respond almost immediately. It's not like the old time where you'd have to write a letter, put it on lick the stamp. I don't know if did any of you guys write letters and put in the postal service and then wait weeks for that love letter you're writing to your boyfriend or your girlfriend to reach the other end? Any of you did that? Of course, I know no one will say, but the idea of work is it will be real time. If you look at the technologies that you use today, communication is real time. If I need something, I'll pick up the phone and call you. If I need something, I will send you a chat. I will send you an email. There are managers who expect that they will send an email and that you will reply. And I kid you not, you will see this everywhere. I have a colleague who would send me an email and call me immediately after and said, I've sent you an email. Have you seen it? That's where work is going to. And so that itself has its own challenges and opportunities. But also, the other thing that will become crazy is security. So as we go ahead and adopt all these cool technologies, the question of security becomes key. So let me give an example. If I join an online call and I just write whatever name and pretend to be someone else, how is it that people will know who I am on a call? And so one of the opportunities that show up in such a space is the idea around identity. Who is the person on that call who they say they are? And I will not spend time on that because I can speak hours on end about it. Before I continue, any questions? Complaints? Insults? I'll take insults on a side chat or on email. Anyone have a question of anything I said? I will take that as either you all understood everything I said or I thoroughly confused everyone. All right, let's move on and then maybe we can do Q&A after all this. So the question becomes, how do we get there? How do we get to a place where we have effective teamwork? It's a very interesting question, and I call it a delicate balance. So it's a delicate balance between looking at how do we streamline, I can give you all the tools and technologies to work as productive as possible, but then that's it. It won't make sense to you if it doesn't work for you. And so we kind of have to figure out how do we balance between tools, people, processes, and technology. Those three things are very key, not only just for teamwork, but also as people start adopting all these new technologies. How do you create a balance between what people should be doing versus the processes that you have in technology? Because if I give you all the technology and I give you all the processes and I don't empower you to use it, then it's completely pointless. If I hire all the right people and all the right technology, but I have no processes, then it becomes completely useless. I think there's an idea that a lot of companies have is, if the thing doesn't work, fire the person. We assume that if we get rid of that person, everything else will be okay. And sometimes that's not the case. And so for me, things like reorgs in large organizations necessarily might not be the best thing. So if you see somebody on a team slacking behind, is your first instinct to say, hey, dude, you're slacking out. If you don't shape up, get out? Or is it to find out, hey, dude, you've been slacking. Are you okay? Is there everything? So there's always a human element to teamwork. We shouldn't assume that it's all processes and goals and KPIs and everything. And so again, there's that delicate balance between technology, people, and processes. I think my last thing would be your teamwork will be completely transformed. And so as you go build all those teams, I think if you look at even the way Microsoft thinks about technology and we think about digital transformation, you will notice at the top of that, we think about how do we empower people. And empower people is making sure that they have the right environment, the right framework, the right culture to be able to work effectively. And of course, that comes with its own sets of challenges and responsibilities, but then it's still work in progress. Now, again, our mission at Microsoft is empowering people. And if you haven't taken anything from this presentation, you will notice I emphasize that it is about people. We empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. So with that, be well, write good code, stay in touch. I talk about some of these things about building teams, building companies, building startups on my recently launched YouTube channel called The Convos. Just search on YouTube The Convos with one word and check out that. Feel free to find me on Twitter and all the online platforms. If you literally search Somet Kip, you will find me. At that point, let me stop and see if we have any questions.
Thank you so much, Somet. Do we have any questions? I'm yet to receive questions on the form. So guys, if you have any question and you're not in a position to unmute your mic, please do type in your questions. So thank you so much, Somet, for that presentation. I'm sure if any one of us has any questions, we're going to just ask them as we continue with the event. So maybe we could move on to the next section. And I can see Consolata, my co-host, has already turned her video on. So I will kindly request Team Remdi, for those on the call, and I believe it's everyone, please just have your video on for the interview. And maybe as they do that, sorry, my camera is misbehaving. Let me just switch that off. And as we continue, I'd want to share that we are interviewing the Game of Learners ADC, the ADC Game of Learners winners. And the reason as to why I call them winners, it is not just because they did win the competition, but it's because I'm factoring in a lot of facts. One, these are random people that came together. So these are not just friends, they are random individuals who are put together in one team. And after 5 weeks, they were able to produce a shippable product. So I find that really amusing, and I can't wait to hear from you guys. So I will hand over to Consolata, who is going to conduct the interview in the next 20 or 30 minutes. Consolata, over to you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Consolata. I'm Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador from KCA. So maybe we can all start by introducing Team Remedy and who they are. Okay.
Right. My name is Josh. I'm a Gold Student Ambassador at Microsoft. I'm a Gold Learn Student Ambassador. I was the team lead for Team Remedy. The team was composed of myself, Cinderella, Namalo, Daniel Katungi, and Jeff. So I've been a student ambassador for the last 2 years now, and I've been doing some cool stuff with folks at Microsoft and also students across different institutions in the country. And as well, I was part of the teams that participated and won in the GOL. So I'm going to let my teammates introduce themselves: Daniel, Cindy, and Jeff.
Hi everyone. My name is Daniel Katungi. I am a student at Mount Kenya University. I'm also a software developer, and I am a member of Team Remedy. Yeah.
Hi everyone. Jeff Lugita, also part of Team Remedy, student at Strasbourg University, and yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Hi everyone, I'm Cinderella Namal. Hi everyone, I'm Cinderella. I'm from Multimedia University of Kenya. I was part of Team Remedy in the GOL competition, and I'm a front-end developer. I'm happy to be here.
I guess as everybody introduced themselves, has everybody finished?
Yeah, everyone has finished the introduction.
Okay. So, okay, just like for the guests who maybe don't know about Game of Learners, maybe we could just have like a 1-minute introduction to what it was all about and like the timeline and what exactly was the main objective of the Game of Learners.
So Game of Learners was a hackathon organized by Microsoft Africa Development Center. It was centered around building solutions around a certain theme, and the theme for this year was medicine and creating solutions for medicine and health in general, the health sector in general during COVID. And so that was the theme for this year. There were 5 teams, and the hackathon took 5 weeks. Yeah, and within that 5 weeks, we had to create a fully shippable product with a business plan and partners and everything.
So
to add on that, members from the teams were both from business side and from development side. So there were members from both sides who came together to create this product that is viable in the market.
Okay, just as a follow-up from that, maybe we can have like the division of tasks. How did you guys divide your tasks? Like who did what? Maybe you can just give us a brief description of that. Or maybe we can start with the definition of the product, then from there we build on who did what exactly. Yeah.
I think Dan can define the product, and then I will do the division. Dan.
Yeah, so the product was basically a system for remote consultation, but with the idea of remote consultation, we took in a lot of factors. We had to consider a lot, and the biggest, I think, consideration was our environment and our target demography. So we integrated a triage bot within the system. So first of all, the system was divided into the doctors and the patients. So the patients had access to a mobile application which was cross-platform and an equivalent USSD and SMS application, and the doctors had a desktop application. So how the mobile and SMS system worked was we used as a health bot to conduct triage, just generally conduct. It takes your symptoms and gives you a suggested care, and then that bot also initializes a session with a doctor, and then from there now you can talk with the doctor. If the doctor sees it fit, they can set an appointment where you can actually go physically to the hospital. So the point of the project was we needed to reduce the congestion in hospitals, especially during this time of COVID. So we created an extra step to medicine where the doctors actually tell you whether you need to go to the hospital or not. And also the bot helped with triage because we realized a large percentage of people actually go to the hospital without being sick, or for the fear of being sick, or some people just want to be sick, which apparently are normal conditions in our psychology and everything. So our app basically and our system try to reduce that congestion in hospitals, especially during this time. Yeah. Jeff and Cindy, you can talk about the division of tasks. Yes, I guess I'll have to do it then. So how we divided the tasks was we had 5 weeks. So we had 5 weeks to implement a system that was very diverse, very complicated. We had a lot of ideas. Most of them we implemented, some we didn't. So we had to prioritize on what ideas were important. We also had to do a lot of market research to know what users need. So initially, we wanted to do remote consultation with video, and we realized that would lock out a lot of Kenyans because of the issue of internet and also data bundles and just general accessibility. So upon
Okay, just to interrupt just for a bit. Okay, you've mentioned something very important. How did you come up with the idea? Especially you guys, you never knew each other. How did you learn to respect each other's ideas and decide on you want a remote doctor?
Could I take that?
Yeah. So take this one.
Okay. Basically, I think in life, it's all about respect. And as we were entering into the competition, we knew we had a certain goal, which was to, at the end of the day, to come out at the better end of this competition. So as we entered into this, we just embraced several things. One was listening to each other, which is very important, because we need to be able to listen to each other first to have even a coherent discussion, discuss about anything, and make any sort of analysis and decision making. And I think the second thing that really helped us a lot was that we were quite open-minded about this whole thing, because most of us did not know each other. Most of us did not know each other. So as we got into this thing together, we decided that we are in this thing for the long run, and we are here together as a team, just like Silas was Somet was saying earlier. So yeah, that's basically what we did. We will listen to each other, and even when you're rejecting someone's idea, it's an idea which you're saying, but it's not even really rejecting. You're just saying that I have a better proposition. So it's not really about dismissing the person. You're just dismissing not really dismissing. It's even you're saying that you have a better position to offer to better influence the team. And then the idea of impact was important. As we were bringing forth ideas, everything that we were saying, we knew that at the end of the day it was impacting us, not only us, our target consumers, our clientele, and yeah, at the end of the day, we knew that what impact we were trying to drive. So I think that's what held us together. And then also, to work, yeah, but also you guys need to be friends, or try at least as much as possible to cultivate a friendly environment. So at the end of the day, we started off as strangers working on a product together. Then we ended up as friends who at the end of the day did quite well. Yeah, that's what I'd say.
Oh, thank you so much for that. So Daniel, you can continue from there.
Just to add on Jeff's points, I think one of the things that actually helped us in the beginning as a team was finding common ground. We had so many ideas that instead of tearing each other down, we will just sit and we will find common ground within all those ideas. I remember I will write a OneNote document on the ideas of the app we want to build, and the document will go on and on and on because we all had different ideas and we will break them down until we came up with one idea. Yeah, that was also important. I think that's something that really helped us. On the division of tasks, we had 3 developers, me, Jeff, and McKenna in absentia. The reason for that was because we were conversant with technology, but we also had a large part of the technology was not the only part of the product. A larger part was actually business and just general user research. Jeff and Cindy had to, conduct some research and ask people what they wanted in a remote consultation, do some research about the population of people in the hospitals. So yeah, that's how we divided the tasks. 3 people took on the development, and McKenna and Cindy and Jeff took on the business side.
That's really nice. Okay, maybe as we just follow up on the development and all that, what did you use like for collaboration or your main means of communication so that like this person is supposed to do this and giving like timelines and all?
So we used for the development we used Azure DevOps. I mean, the minute we decided this is what we wanted to build, I think the next day we went straight to Azure DevOps and we planned. We took like almost half a day just planning and setting deadlines. Yeah, almost 5 hours or 6 hours. Just setting deadlines. You say by the end of this week, this should be running. This should be running. We should have this minimal viable product. By the end of the next week. Of course, those deadlines were most of them were not met, but the ones we met were, yeah, at the end of the day, we had something good. Yeah. So we majorly use Azure DevOps for communication. We use Teams, and God Teams has this feature where you can connect your Azure DevOps board or like your work board on Teams. So every time when you're on Teams or you're just talking to someone, you can just click on the tabs and you can see I'm supposed to have accomplished this by this week. Maybe you can give us some statistics of this is what you've accomplished, this amount of tasks you have done. Yeah. So I think Teams was a large player in our organization.
And just to add that, it was quite interesting because the real-time calculation is all there, the statistics, we can actually monitor our progress real-time and see, okay, you were supposed to achieve this by this week, this was not moved here, and even greater accountability. It really helped in terms of accountability because now everyone could see what you're doing, and yeah, it really boosted that aspect of the product.
Okay, just not a very formal question, but how did you like make each person accountable to their tasks? Like you guys are total strangers, you didn't know each other, you don't know like this person works this way. So how did you like make sure everybody is accountable to the task that he or she has been assigned to?
I think we have different perspectives, so we could all answer this. I think Cindy could start that, like, because it was different, but at the end of the day, it worked for all of us. So we all have different perspectives as answers to that question. I think Cindy could start, then I go, then that.
So on working together and holding each other accountable, we all knew we wanted to create the whole REMD app application, set of application as our solutions. And we all knew our roles. The development team knew their roles, and the business side of the team also knew their roles. And we had the DevOps guiding us. So we had also sprints. We organized our work in sprints, and then we also had our sprint meetings where we could update each other on where we were, on what we were doing. So that helped in getting to know what everyone else has done. And so it helps in reminding you that you have work to do and you just have to do it. Because you're a member of a team, you have your responsibility to the team. So you do your part to make sure the team succeeds. So that's how we did it.
Even further to reiterate on what you were saying, the fact of we used to have sprint meets. So after every sprint, we used to meet. And even before that, in case you encounter any challenges, or communication, I think, was our chief accountability mechanism. Because if you have anything that you need to tell anyone concerning work or concerning anything else, you could just talk to each other. That's I think I mentioned it earlier. The aspect of you guys need to grow as friends for you to become an effective team. So actually, those meetings really played a big part in us achieving our goals at the end of the day, because we used to meet per sprint and we work at it. The sprint meets most of the time actually used to start with fun activities. Yeah, I think Dan remembers we used to start with probably a game, something informal for like the first few minutes, and then as we continue, we go into work, deep into work, and then at the end of the day, we just come out of there feeling tired, yes, but achieved, or rather successful.
Oh, that's really nice. I'd like to introduce Sandra. Sandra, you can unmute, please, and just introduce yourself.
Oh, hi everyone. My name is McKenna. Sorry I came in late. I had another meeting. So yeah, I'm happy to be here and join the discussion.
Yeah, welcome, Sandra. So maybe we can finish up on the accountability part, then we go to the next part.
So I think another thing that really helped is accountability was from the get-go we cultivated this environment where we were just open about everything. I remember if I had this task, but I would assess and know I needed help in this area and this area, and if I needed help maybe in coding or I needed help with something, I would call maybe Josh. And if maybe I had a blocker, I would call Josh or McKenna, and we'll just stay on the call for like 2 hours trying to help each other. And yeah, I think the environment where it's not really a task you're supposed to accomplish, but rather something you're doing for a greater good, like you're contributing, you're pulling your own weight, to put it informally. That environment really helped, because I don't remember a time where I felt like this was something I really, really had to do. I felt like this was something I wanted to do by this day. And I think that fundamental difference is what made everything easier, and accountability generally just for our whole team. Yeah.
Okay, because of time, we won't have like to listen to each team member, but I'd like to, maybe you can showcase the products that you had at this point, even if they're like just screenshots or a recording of the app.
I think Dan is working on that.
Okay. In the meantime, maybe we can have McKenna tell us how did this this whole game of learners, how did it impact your life, or what did you get from it?
Oh, sorry. I guess this was a very interesting experience for me, I'd say. I learned quite a lot. I was not really, let's say, my first instinct wasn't actually to take part in the competition because I had school going on. So I was wondering how I'd be able to do both of them at the same time. So especially because this is like the longest hackathon I've ever taken part in. Most of my hackathons were like a weekend max. So having a whole month for a hackathon was not easy. I did have to make a few sacrifices with sleep and definitely schoolwork, but generally it was a very, very exciting experience. I learned so much from my teammates and from working on the project. That's, I'd say, a brief of how my experience was taking part in GOL.
Thank you very much. Maybe we can have like the brief demo now.
Just a minute, as I have a video, the video that we used to present, but it's buffering a minute, so it's buffering. So you can just go and have a look for it. Just give me 5 minutes as it buffers.
Okay. This is like the last question that I had before like we now do the demo and Clinton takes over. How would any one of you compare like working alone on a project and working on a team? How would you rate it? Which is better? Maybe we can do like out of 10. You can rate out of 10.
For me, it depends with the team. If the team is cooperative, working with the team is really amazing. But if it's not, just do it on your own. It's so much better.
Okay, in this context, like when you are working as team REMD, just give it a rating out of 10, working alone or working in a team, which is better?
Oh, I will say if working alone and working with Teams MD, I will prefer with working with Teams MD. 9 out of 10.
Okay, Jeff, maybe you can give your rating.
I think I'd also give a 9 because in terms of the work that you were doing, if you try to do all of that alone, you'd really be on a stretcher somewhere lying in a hospital. So yeah, I'd give another 9 there. McKenna?
I agree with my teammates. It was definitely really fun working with these guys. I've also had the opportunity to work with teams that are not so good. So I think I'd do like 9.5 compared to the other experiences I've had with other teams.
How about you, Daniel?
For me, I will also give it a 9.5 because we were very lucky because we agreed on a lot of things and we did not have a lot of friction, and just overall we had good team chemistry. Yeah.
Oh, that's really nice. What about, I don't know, Sandra? Okay. I guess we can continue on with the demo. Daniel, are you ready?
So I have the pitch, the video that we used to pitch. So for those who weren't following Game of Learners, we used the Imagine Cup submission process. So we had to submit a 3-minute demo and a 10-minute product demo. So the 3-minute video was a pitch, basically explaining the problem we are trying to solve, and it's what I want to present today. Yeah. So can I share my screen?
Yes, please.
Can you hear the audio?
Daniel, so when you're sharing your screen and you want to capture the audio, there's an option there. It'll tell you share system audio. So you have to stop sharing and share again. But when you click that share button, you should see it under, let's say they include computer sound or something like share.
Okay, just a minute. So it's telling me to switch speakers or something like that. Let me try this again.
That's probably because you had your headphones plugged in. They'll probably ask to switch between those two.
Okay, so maybe in the meantime, Clinton is briefly going to do a demo on how to apply for the Imagine Cup. So maybe Clinton, you could also get your presentation ready. It's just brief, 5 or 10 minutes on how to apply for the Imagine Cup, and maybe a few tips on how to make a submission stand out. So Daniel, back to you.
Okay. Still not working. I do not know why. I think I'll have to leave the call and join again. Just 1 minute. Maybe that will work.
Okay, so maybe in the interest of time, could we have Clinton just show his demo and then we'll just get back to that. Clinton, are you on the call?
Yes, Julia, thank you. So just to introduce myself, my name is Clinton Odor. I'm a student at the Kimathi University of Technology, undertaking a Bachelor of Science in Electrical and Electronics Engineering. I'm also a team member of Team Wildlife, which recently participated in the Imagine Cup Regional Finals. So I'm just going to go through very fast on how to apply for the Microsoft Imagine Cup. So I'll just share my screen. So just tell me when you can see my screen. So as Julia said, it's going to be more of a very quick demo and the things that you must include when applying for the Microsoft Imagine Cup. So first of all, you all know when you want to apply for the Imagine Cup, you must have a team. This can be a team that you have been working on for a while, or maybe a team that you just formed recently for this specific competition. So the guidelines for forming a team is that the team should contain 3 members, and you can either be from different institutions or countries, but as long as those countries, those institutions are in the same region, which, for example, in our case, it will be the EMEA region, Europe, Middle East, and Africa region. So that's something you should also consider. So what you're going to do when you want to apply for, especially when you're in this region, you'll just go to the official Imagine Cup account, in the official Imagine Cup site. Then you are going to choose your region, which is the EMEA region, which I've just chosen here. Yeah. So when you come here, you are going to see like previous finals from that region. Then you're going to say register. After that, you're going to register your team. From there, you're going to submit the 3 names of everyone that is in your team, and also you will be required like to also submit some deliverables. So you will complete your profile, whereby you're going to list all your team members, and also name of your team, and also the universities that you are presenting. So okay, so 2021 Imagine Cup, there are currently no competition. I think this is not updated, but this is whereby you're going to upload all the requirements for the competition. So maybe if I just go through the requirements, which are much more important, maybe I'll just share my screen again. Yeah, so when you're applying, there are some criteria that you are supposed to meet. Obvious, you are not going just to come up with an idea and just submit. There are some requirements that you should meet. First of all, is of age, which you should be above 16 years. So these are some of the requirements that people usually ignore, but they are usually very important, especially when the judges are judging. So the other thing that you should consider, maybe your project should not have received like a business funding of more than 50,000 US dollars. So maybe you're a startup and you have some investors in your company. When the investors invest in your startup that you want to register for in the Imagine Cup, you are not supposed like to have received like more than $50,000. So if you do so, I guess you'll automatically be excluded from the competition. So the other eligibility that you are supposed to meet, you should not have received any assistance from Microsoft employees or any competition organizers of the Imagine Cup. So yeah, another thing is that you should enlist your mentors' roles. So of course, most of the time you won't be like just 3 students. You will find that you will seek maybe assistance from other students that are not part of your team, or other staff members maybe from your university. Maybe you have like, for example, a professor, maybe is very good in artificial intelligence and your project is all about artificial intelligence. When you will consider him as your mentor, and when you are submitting your details in your document proposal, you must list the mentors and how they helped you. So this includes also like people who assist you maybe in coming up with your business plan. You should also like enlist their roles in your document proposals. So these are just few of the eligibility criteria that you are supposed to meet. The rest of the requirements, which are many, I guess there are more than 15 or 20, are well documented in the terms and conditions of the competition, which are usually also shared. So if I just go to the next thing, which is the submission. So what is required when you want to submit for the Imagine Cup? So the first thing is a project proposal. So like your project proposal should include like, okay, I'm going to talk about this later, the requirements. So the next thing is a presentation video. So you should have like a 3-minute quality video. The video should be very clear in terms of quality and also in terms of audio. The judge should not like struggle to hear what you are saying. So also maybe when you're shooting your video, you should put it in a situation whereby you are imagining a judge. You're imagining that you are in a live presentation and you are presenting in front of a judge. So that's also what you should consider. Another thing that you should consider is that your video should be in the format of an MP4, and also it should be not more than 1 GB. So the next thing is the software. For example, it's an application that you are building, or it's a hardware that you are building for your project for the competition. So if it's a software, if it's an APK, you're supposed to give the login details of how the software has been built, or not rather how it has been built, but how the software should be used. Or maybe, okay, because like this software or this hardware are the ones that are required for the judges to judge you and select maybe the 10 in each region. So you are supposed to like to give credential, the login credential to the software, so that they can at least have a demo by themselves to see if at all what you have submitted is what is actually in the ground. So if it's a hardware project, of course you can't like send to the judges your hardware project. What you're supposed to do is that you are supposed just to take a little some pictures of your device, so that maybe your judges maybe don't presume that you are just talking and there is nothing that you have done. So in the next thing that we're supposed to submit is the software instructions. So software instruction is just TXT files that contain all the software technologies that you have used. For example, if your project uses maybe virtual reality, augmented reality, machine learning, IoT, you should list all those things under the software instruction in form of TXT file. So if I just go to my next and my last slide, it's about the judgment. So from the proposal that you sent, the things that you should consider are the following, because these are the things that are going to be used for judgment. It includes the technology. Your technology should be really feasible, and it should be like an up-to-date technology. It's not be like a 19th century maybe technology. It should be like among the latest technology that are used. And of course, the technology should be around Azure. So one thing that you should consider, you must at least use some services from Microsoft. that includes all those services that are offered by Microsoft Azure in order to be eligible also for the competition. So the second thing that you should consider when you're coming up with the document proposal is the project should has an aspect of diversity, inclusion, and accessibility. It should also has an aspect of some innovation. It should not be like a long way. It should not be like, maybe let me say, like a 19th century innovation. The fourth thing is that it should have a concept, meaning that it will be something that is scalable, something that has some value, not something that, the biggest mistake that usually make us techies is that we usually fall in love with our technologies rather than what they are really intended to do, which are what usually judges usually look at the most. So it should have like a concept, it should have like value addition aspect in it. So the fifth thing is the feasibility, and in terms of feasibility, what they usually look at most is usually like how feasible is your project, meaning like how easy it is like to scale your project to the market rather than just for the development for a development setting. So your project should be fully scalable, and also it should have like a business value in it. So here you are going to submit also like your business model. So just to recap on what Somet was saying, when you're coming up with a team, as long as you are all from a technical background, but you should at least have somebody who is at least like teaching. They usually offer very big assistance. So I guess that's all. Maybe just to say about how you're supposed to submit your document proposal. The document proposal it can either be submitted in form of a Word document or in form of PowerPoint presentation. So if it's a Word document, it must not exceed 20 pages, and if it's a Word document, it must not exceed like 10 pages, and if it's a PowerPoint slide, it should not exceed 20 slides. So I guess that's all that is required when you're applying for the Imagine Cup. Now, everything that I've just talked about are the things that you should include when you are doing the application from the site. So from the site, there isn't like much work. So maybe just to touch for the last like a minute. So there is some terms and conditions that you must consider when you are doing the application, because because like we are all techies, like you will find that most of the time we'll always have the technology working, but when it comes to now terms, we usually fail sometimes. So it doesn't usually hurt to go through like the terms and condition of the official rules and regulations for the competition. So it usually contains everything that is required, including like how they judge in terms of marks and the rest. Also like also those legal restrictions that are required. So I guess that's all. I guess that's all. I don't have anything else to add on that. It was supposed to be a very brief demo. So like everything that we have discussed here, together with the things that are in the competitions rules and regulations, are the ones that should be considered when applying for the Imagine Cup. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Clinton, for that brief and detailed presentation. So thank you so much, guys, for joining. And I was hoping to receive more questions, especially for you, Somet, but unfortunately, sijapata maswali, so we didn't have a lot of questions today. So maybe any parting short words from you, Somet, before we wind up the session.
Let me see if I can turn on my video. It is. Just give me 1 second. You guys can hear me, right?
Okay.
Cool. I will borrow words from a very famous musician you guys have probably heard of. Today, right now, you have more power at your fingertips than entire generations that came before you. question is, what will you do with it? There's a lot that you guys will do, and I think you're living in a future that people always dreamed of, and so there's a lot that's possible today. So I'd implore you to go out there and do amazing stuff. I'd love to see a lot more of you ask questions, and cool. And I'd love to see you guys engage more. So if you have any questions, complaints, again, as I said, I'll take insults outside. But thank you so much for joining. Cool.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was an honor to have you on the call. So to everyone who is still here, thank you so much for joining the call, for gracing with your presence, and we appreciate you as the community. So we're going to have recorded the session. So for your friends who are not able to join, we'll just upload this recording on YouTube, and we'll share the link with you later. So to follow on the community's events, we'll be posting them on Twitter. You can follow us at ImagineCapKE. You can join the community here on Teams, and in case of any clarifications that you need, you can always reach me at my email, which is juliajules@studentambassadors.com. So I think we can call it a day, and thank you so much for being here. And also to Team Randy, thank you, by the way. It was nice hearing from your experience. We've learned a lot, and I've personally learned a lot since I was also part of the competition. And yeah, so you guys, you did a good job. So I think with that said, we can call it a day. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
Enjoy your weekends.
You too.